Hello everyone and welcome to another Recapped Annie's video. Today we talk about Bleach. Ichigo Kurosaki, a 15-year-old boy who can see ghosts, tries to help a young girl ghost who is being chased by a monster called a Hollow. Just when the girl is about to be eaten, a female Shinigami named Rukia Kuchiki appears to save her. That night Rukia visits Ichigo and is surprised that he can see her. Soon a Hollow appears and terrorizes Ichigo's family. Rukia is seriously injured in the attack and makes a final attempt to save all their lives by transferring her powers to Ichigo. The two blobs reveal themselves to be invisible monsters that land on a riverbank running beneath a bridge below. The following evening, at twilight, Ichigo Kurosaki stands in front of 5 skateboarding teenagers, one of whom is lying on the ground, while a belligerent Toshi Bro confronts him over kicking down Yama Bro, who lies unconscious nearby, and telling them to get out of his way. Walking through the front door of his house, Ichigo announces his arrival, only to be kicked in the face by Isshin Kurosaki, who reprimands him for being late despite knowing dinner is always served at 7 p.m., prompting Ichigo to ask if this is how he treats someone who just helped a spirit pass over. Yuzu Kurosaki tries to tell her brother and father to stop it because dinner is getting cold, but Karin Kurosaki tells her to leave them alone before nonchalantly asking for more rice, prompting Yuzu to express concern over her lack of reaction. After thanking Yuzu for dinner, Karin expresses sympathy for Ichigo being so popular with spirits, but Yuzu admits she is somewhat jealous because she can only sense them. While Ichigo lies in his bed upstairs, Yuzu states that he is having a rough time right now, prompting Karin to note that Ichigo mentioned seeing more spirits than ever as of late. The next day, a reporter on television relayed the news that the ground shook and the walls of many buildings were damaged 1 block away from the main street outside of Karakura Station at 7:30 a.m. this morning. As Karin and Yuzu eat breakfast in the dining room, Ichigo enters the room and greets them before asking where Isshin is, prompting Karin to reveal that he has a meeting and will not be home that night. Taking a piece of toast from the toaster, Ichigo acknowledges this before looking at the television while the reporter states that investigators are working to determine what happened. Elsewhere in the city, a woman wonders what that sound was before screaming when another explosion occurs nearby and giant claw marks are dug into the side of a building. As the civilians flee, Ichigo runs past them toward the ongoing incident. Suddenly, while Ichigo sees a Jigokucho fly in front of his face, Rukia appears in front of the monster and unsheathes her Zanpakuto before slashing the monster's mouth. When Rukia lands before him and the dead girl while sheathing her Zanpakuto, a stunned Ichigo tries to get her attention, only for Rukia to briefly look at him before walking away. As civilians begin returning to the scene and wondering what happened, Ichigo sees that the dead girl has disappeared and looks ahead in shock. Soon afterward, sirens fill the air while emergency services respond and arrive at the scene of the incident. When Rukia grips her Zanpakuto, Ichigo asks with trepidation what she wants. Stepping down onto the floor, Rukia notes that it is close, only to be interrupted when Ichigo angrily kicks her in the back while demanding to know what she is talking about. As she lies on the floor, a stunned Rukia asks Ichigo if he can see her and notes that he just kicked her. However, Rukia effortlessly dodges his kick and leaps off his leg before pushing Ichigo to the ground with a foot to the head. While Ichigo expresses irritation at this, Rukia solemnly informs him that she is a Shinigami. Meanwhile, the dead girl runs down the street while thundering footsteps echo behind her, and wonders where it is coming from as 2 telephone lines are torn apart, revealing a large monster with their surge of electricity. When Rukia points out that he is seeing her right now, Ichigo admits that she is clearly not human before telling her to stop playing Shinigami and calling her a pipsqueak as he grabs her head. Angered by this, Rukia uses Bakuto number 1. Sai, causing Ichigo's hands to be bound behind his back while he falls forward in surprise and demands to know what Rukia did to him. Taunting Ichigo over his inability to move, Rukia explains that this is Kaido, a high-level spell that only Shinigami can use, and reveals that she has lived 10 times longer than Ichigo despite her appearance before claiming that not being permitted to execute anyone not named in her orders is the only thing preventing her from killing Ichigo on the spot for his insolence, which he should be grateful for. While the light fades and a Jigokucho flies away from the center, a confused Ichigo asks Rukia what happened to the soul, prompting her to reiterate that she sent him to Soul Society, which is referred to as passing over in the human world, and decides to take the time to explain it to him so that he fully understands. Pulling out a sketchbook and marker, Rukia explains that there are 2 types of spirits in the world. Pluses, the normal spirits that Ichigo normally sees, and hollows, evil spirits that attack both the living and the dead to devour their souls, both of which she illustrates. When Rukia asks him if he has any questions so far, Ichigo sarcastically wonders why her drawings are so bad, prompting Rukia to draw a mustache on his face with her marker, to his horror, before continuing. Standing up, Fishbone D begins walking in a different direction and roars, causing the windows nearby to explode. However, while several floating kanji appear around him and his restraints become visible, Ichigo glows with golden light before completely shattering his bonds. Roaring in pain, Fishbone D drops Karin, who is caught by Ichigo and disappears from view. As Ichigo frantically calls out to Karin, Rukia sternly tells him to compose himself because Fishbone D has not yet devoured his sister's souls, to his surprise. Ichigo asks what she means, prompting Rukia to explain that his power was almost completely suppressed until just now before stating that this is why she did not sense anything about him and why he was never attacked by a hollow before. Admitting that it may just be conjecture, Rukia theorizes that Ichigo's power began pouring out due to his contact with the dead girl, and that the Hollows sensed his power through that same girl, which makes him their real target. However, he tells her to shut up and asks if it is his fault that the dead girl was attacked, and that his sister's lives are in danger. While Fishbone D recovers and narrows his eyes, Rukia pulls herself to a nearby pole and asks Ichigo if he wants to save his family, which Ichigo immediately confirms before asking if there is a way to do so. Affirming this, Rukia leans against the pole and points her Zanpakuto at Ichigo before declaring he must become a Shinigami himself and detailing how Ichigo must be stabbed by her Zanpakuto so she can pour her powers into him. Pushing through the force, Fishbone D suddenly has his left arm cut off by Ichigo, with Ichigo having successfully gained Shinigami powers and a large Zanpakuto of his own. A stunned Rukia, now clad in a white Shihakusha, notes that Ichigo took all of her power despite her only meaning to give him half and wonders who he is as Ichigo charges at Fishbone D while Rukia states with disbelief that she has never met a human with enough Ryoryoku to confuse her senses, enough strength to break through a binding spell, and enough power to make a Zanpakuto as large as their own body. Ichigo cuts off Fishbone D's right leg and declares that he will pay for hurting his family before slashing through the Hollow's mask, causing Fishbone D to disintegrate and disappear, with Ichigo confidently standing on the street afterward. After becoming a Shinigami, Ichigo Kurosaki refuses to help Rukia Kuchiki with her work as the local Shinigami of Karakura town. The morning after the fateful battle against Fishbone D, Isshin Kurosaki crashes feet first into a sleeping Ichigo Kurosaki while greeting him, only for Ichigo to scream in anger before pinning his father to the ground while berating him for attacking his own son in his sleep, which leads Isshin to compliment Ichigo's skill and declare that he has nothing more to teach his son. Taking Ichigo outside into the driveway of the house to look at the damage done to the Kurosaki clinic alongside his sisters, Isshin cheerfully proclaims that it is a miracle for no one to have been hurt by the truck crashing into their house, while Karin claims it is more miraculous that no one woke up during this incident and notes the culprit got away, which prompts Isshin to optimistically predict that they will come back to apologize at some point. A stunned Ichigo notes that his sister's wounds are gone and their memories of the incident have been altered before wondering if this is the work of a Shinigami. As she and Karin walk back into the house, Yuzu tells Ichigo to eat breakfast before he is late for school, which a distracted Ichigo agrees to do before recalling Rukia Kuchiki and wondering if she returned to Soul Society after the fight ended and he lost consciousness. Confirming this, Orihime details how she brought taiyaki-style ramen with wasabi and honey before asking Tatsuki if she wants any, only for a bemused Tatsuki to deny this after envisioning what this combination of food would look like. Realizing his mistake, Ichigo asks Orihime if she is alright, which she affirms before extending his hand to help her up. However, Orihime is startled by his expression and gets to her feet on her own before frantically claiming she has volleyball to attend. As Orihime runs off, Tatsuki calls after her while Ichigo wonders what her deal is, prompting Tatsuki to claim he has a mean face before asking why Ichigo is so late, which Ichigo states he will explain later while he leaves for class. Suddenly, a girl walks up behind Ichigo and asks if he is Ichigo Kurosaki, and while Ichigo turns around, he is shocked to see Rukia standing before him in a school uniform. Rukia introduces herself and reveals she will be sitting next to Ichigo starting today, leading a speechless Ichigo to point at her. While Mizuhiro identifies Rukia as a transfer student, Rukia holds out her hand to Ichigo, who is unnerved to see that she has written a warning not to make a scene on it. Shortly afterward, Ichigo and Rukia meet outside as Ichigo demands to know what Rukia is doing, leading Rukia to mockingly ask him if he plans on doing something to her out here. Brushing this off, Ichigo asks why Rukia is still here since she was planning on returning to Soul Society, but Rukia asserts that only Shinigami can do this before informing him that she does not have this ability at the moment. As Ichigo realizes that this is why his classmates could see her, Rukia declares that Ichigo must perform her Shinigami duties until her powers return, to his surprise. Claiming it is only natural, Rukia asserts that Ichigo does not have the right to refuse since he has Shinigami powers, but Ichigo refuses anyway, shocking Rukia, before stating that he does not want to fight Hollows ever again. Shortly afterward, as he and Rukia walk by a memorial set up on a telephone pole near a park, Ichigo asks where they are going, prompting Rukia to pull out her Denrei Shinki and reveal that she has received an order from Soul Society revealing a plus who lives in the nearby park will probably be attacked. Suddenly, a young boy cries out while a play structure is destroyed. As the boy cries for help, Ichigo leaps over the metal barrier and prepares to intervene, only for Rukia to tell him to wait before pointing out that the boy is a complete stranger and asking why Ichigo is helping him. However, while the boy falls and Hexapotus prepares to attack him, a determined Ichigo draws his Zanpakuto and cuts off both of Hexapotus's front legs, causing it to fall back in pain and retreat to Hyukomundo. And when Rukia asks him if he is committed to this, Ichigo denies this and declares that he saved the boy because he wanted to before asking a stunned Rukia if she was thinking about her Shinigami duties when she saved him last night. Watching as Hexapotus collapses and fades away after he pulls out his Zanpakuto, Ichigo turns to face the crying boy and asks if he is alright before kneeling before him. After telling the boy to pass over if he does not want to experience something scary like that again, Ichigo presses the hilt of his Zanpakuto to the boy's forehead and performs Kanso, causing the boy to sink into the ground in blue light. The following day, Rukia reads several passages aloud from a dramatic novel she is holding as she walks down the street, only for an irritated Ichigo to confront her and demand that she shut up. Ichigo and Rukia begin to walk away, but upon hearing a car screeching, they turn around to see Oraheim lying in a nearby intersection with a bag of groceries on the ground next to her. While Ichigo runs up to her in concern, Oraheim sits up and sees him, and when Ichigo asks if a car hit her, Oraheim confirms this, prompting a surprised Ichigo to wonder if she is okay. When Oraheim notices her, Rukia rudely asks who she is, prompting a flustered Ichigo to inform her that Oraheim is in their class. Hearing this, Rukia politely curses at Oraheim while she greets her, and a somewhat confused Oraheim returns the gesture. Rukia asks Oraheim if she has been out shopping, prompting Oraheim to remember her groceries and pick them up from the road while confirming they are intact. Later that day, while the sun begins to set, Ichigo and Rukia walk along a riverbank. When Rukia asks him if he and Oraheim are friends, Ichigo denies this and admits that he has not spoken to her very much. Explaining that she is close to one of his friends who lives in the neighborhood, Ichigo reveals that Oraheim's brother died at his family's clinic 3 years ago. In the past, a young Oraheim stands outside the Kurosaki clinic while her brother is being wheeled into an ambulance and tearfully begs him to not die and leave her by herself. In the present, Ichigo admits that he only recently learned Oraheim was the girl crying that day, and when Rukia asks him how his spiritual perception was at the time, Ichigo states that it was not as strong as it is now and explains that he has only recently been able to see and interact with spirits, which Rukia notes confirms her suspicions. That night, at Oraheim's apartment, Tatsuki brings her stewed beef with potatoes that her mother prepared, to Oraheim's delight. Inside, while Oraheim gratefully eats her mother's food, Tatsuki claims that she eats strange things when she is alone, to Oraheim's surprise. Meanwhile, at the Kurosaki clinic, Yuzu opens Ichigo's bedroom door and asks if he has seen her pajamas, prompting an annoyed Ichigo to ask her to knock first. When Yuzu claims that he has gotten mean after entering high school, Ichigo bluntly denies this and states that he does not know where her pajamas are. In Ichigo's closet, Rukia, who is wearing Yuzu's pajamas, hears her Denrei Shinki beeping and opens it to look at the screen while a confused Ichigo wonders where the noise is coming from. With Ichigo and Rukia looking on in surprise, Acidwire flattens Ichigo's bed and pulls himself fully into the room as he roars at them. When Acidwire thrusts his head at them, Ichigo leaps into the air and Rukia leaps back. When Rukia tells him to not just swing his Zanpakuto around, Ichigo claims it is fine as long as he defeats Acidwire before running forward as Acidwire charges at him in turn. Angered by this, a yelling Ichigo pushes down on his Zanpakuto, causing it to sink just deep enough to dig into Acidwire's mask and shatter the portion covering his left eye. Seeing this, Ichigo can only stare in shock as a screaming Acidwire retreats into Hyukomundo. Though Rukia declares that they are going after Acidwire, Ichigo simply stands still without saying anything, and when Rukia asks him if something is wrong, Ichigo reveals the face under Acidwire's mask was that of Oraheim's brother. With Ichigo wondering what a Hollow's identity is, Rukia reminds him of what he saw and reveals that all Hollows were once humans, to his shock. Meanwhile, at Oraheim's apartment, Tatsuki is surprised to learn Oraheim found Ichigo and Rukia walking together that day. While Oraheim continues to envision the scenario and mentions a gun, a crash shakes the apartment, prompting Tatsuki to nervously wonder what that was, and while a torn Raku falls to the ground, the crashes continue while Acidwire roars outside the apartment complex. Did you enjoy this recap? If you did, kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you the recap of the next episodes. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.